Hello everyone, and thank you for coming to my channel today. My name is Matthew Ejimel and welcome to Kanka Finance here. And today we're going to discuss about financial awareness. And remember, we've talked about self-awareness in previous videos, and this time around we're going to talk about financial awareness. So I'm going to write it out here. And in this financial awareness, I have researched and gotten 7 concepts we could talk about. But in this video, I'm going to split it into two different videos. The first 3 concepts is what we're going to discuss now, and the next 4 concepts is what we're going to discuss in the next video. So follow me and let's have a very smooth ride on financial awareness. The concept we're going to talk about is going to be income and expenses, and then we're going to talk about budgeting, and then we're going to talk about savings. And so I'm going to just go write it up now. Income and expenses, and we're going to talk about budgeting. I'm going to talk about savings. Those are the 3 concepts we're going to deal with today. So when we talk about income, what do we mean by income? And different people have different definition for income. But to me, income is just what comes into your account. Just the positive inflow, that's it. And different ways you'll get your income could be from your job, from your salary, from contracts, from your side hustle, from different ways. Even it could come in as a gift as well. It could come in as from rents and all of your investments as well. And then we'll talk about expenses. What is expenses? Expenses is those obligations you have gotten or you've involved yourself in that you need to pay every now and every time. So that's income and expenses. And then there's a formula, a very old equation which people use. It's the income minus expenses. Then what you've got left is gonna be your savings. And to me, that is a very wrong equation. So it's better you say income minus your savings equals to your expenses. So what are we trying to say? Your savings should be the first priority first when your money comes in, and then what is left is what you give out, what you spend as your income, as your expenses. So what it means is that you need to be in control of your expenses. And how can you be in control of your expenses? And that leads us to the next line, which is called budgeting. With proper budgeting skills, you can be able to manage your expenses. Now, you can decide to have a budget tracker. You can decide to have any way you think you could write your budget. You could write it out on a piece of paper. You could put it on a Microsoft Excel. Anyhow you want to do it. But as long as you keep a track of your budget, like for example, you can say, okay, I'm going to spend £1,000, £2,000 every month on days. I'm going to spend days. So you have a planned way of how you're going to spend your money. You understand? So that is budgeting. Now, what is the essence of budgeting? Budgeting helps us to be able to monitor and track how we spend money. So you can be able to say, oh, this is what I plan to spend, but why am I spending more than this? And then you can now look at that expenses and say, okay, can we remove this? Can I remove this? Can I stop doing this? Can I stop doing that? So it is when you are able to manage your expenses. The best way for you to be able to manage your expenses is through proper budgeting. And then at the end of the day, what is your goal? Your goal is to have more money for saving. So for example, if you say I'm saving 10% of my income every month, so what it means is that every month you are putting your money, you're removing 10% out of it, and what is left 90% is what you're using to spend on your expenses. And in your savings, now what we talk about savings is not just keeping your money in bank. You could divide your savings into 2: emergency savings and then savings for investment. Yes, sometimes some things come up and you never planned it, is not in your budget at all. That is what savings do. Savings tends to help you solve problems or expenses that are not budgeted. So you see, the essence of your saving is very, very important. Some things can just come up. You can just have a parking ticket. You can just have a bill that you never ever planned for. You never expected it. So that is where savings comes in. Savings is what help you get that problem solved. Now, what about savings for investment? So I won't say much about savings for investment. I will leave it to our next video because we're going to talk about investment in that video. So in this video, we're talking about three concepts of financial awareness, which is income and expenses. We're talking about budgeting. We're talking about savings. Now, I understand these things are not new to you. Now, even the Bible says there's nothing new under the sun. But the fact is, we still have financial fears as a result of improper management of these three things. Improper management of our income, improper management of our savings, improper management of expenses, because we probably lack efficient and effective way of budgeting. So if you understand budgeting, if you understand how to track your expenses, how to monitor your expenses, it helps you to be able to let go some of the expenses that can be spread in between. For example, you could say, okay, for my holiday, I'm going to spend £1,000 for my holiday this year. And you could say, okay, every month I'm going to keep aside £100. I'm going to keep aside £80 for this expenses, this trip. Now, you have that in your budget. So while you are spending, you're keeping aside a certain amount of money. You have spread that money for a period of time. Because you want to go for a trip, you can't, it will be unwise to just say, okay, I'm going for the trip in July, and then that July you take 1,000 or 1,500 pounds from your salary and say, oh, I'm going for your trip. I've already planned it. No, because there are some bills that you need to sort out as well. But when you have a effective way of budgeting, you could spread that journey, that holiday in that period of time, and say, okay, you could start planning for an holiday 6 months, 8 months before the holiday. So it helps you to be able to set money aside for that specific holiday. So in expenses, we can be very flexible, but in savings, I will tell you, be fixed on your savings. If you're saving 10%, be fixed on 10%. If you're saving 15%, if you're saving 20%, if you're saving 30%, if you're saving 40%, be fixed on your savings. Or your expenses, you can play around with it. You can let go some things. You can postpone some things. You can spread some things. You can leave it to next year. You can leave it to the next pay slip. You must not do all your expenses now. Now, in expenses, we have necessity, which is a must, which has to be done. Your rent, there are things that has to be done. Yes, we understand. And in the same expenses as well, we have some things that are just for fun. So you need to understand where each of your spendings go to. So if you say you're going to spend £100 a week to feed, and then you realize you track your spending, you realize you're spending £125, you need to question yourself and say, why am I spending an excess of £25? Because in every money you spend, it is not a free money. In every money you spend, you're somehow affecting your savings. So you need to be able to have a proper way of monitoring this spending. Go through your bank account, go through your spending. Is it in line with my budget? Now, the essence of all this thing is for you to be able to have financial awareness and in the long run conquer finance fear. Now, in the previous videos we spoke about different kind of finance fear that people are faced with. So the ability for you to manage your income. I was still going to talk about income as well in the next video, because budgeting manages in expenses. What about your income? We could talk about you could plan on increasing your income. You could also look at it and say, there can be a shortfall of my income. What do you do at that moment? So we're going to talk about that in the next video. So but for now, we just talked about income and expenses, budgeting, and then saving.